Welcome. We are here with our Momivate Momversations. I'm Regan Barnes, your hostess, and I am so excited to have Brittny Bird joining us today. Thank you, Brittny. I have known you for several years, and it's just been a joy every time we have a chance to interact. And so I'm hopeful that other people can get to know you and benefit from your kindness and your willingness to share your expertise with everyone. Brittny is a registered dietitian. And when she saw that we were going to host these Momversations, she was so excited to sign up and come be our guest because what was it that you were saying about how you've noticed how moms feel and how it affects our relationships?
Oh, 100%. First, thank you. I look forward to this because I just adore you and I love this organization that you have created. There is such a need for it. I feel in our society today where being a mom is a choice that we want to make, and you're providing resources for us to be able to thrive. And I love that. So thank you for starting Momivate and these momversations because I just feel like they are needed.
I
Then
can't
it
do it without
answer
you.
Yes,
It really does take a MomUnity, we like to
question.
say.
Yeah, oh, we need it. We need it. And that's why I jumped on this opportunity because as you've mentioned, I am a registered dietitian and I worked for quite a few years when I first became that. But as a mom, I took a big step back and just was a stay-at-home mom. And I loved it. Like that is my absolute first priority are my kids. I have 5 of them. Um, but I couldn't ever get out of my mind whenever I go to play groups or meet new people or you have conversations with mom, health always comes up. Always. My kid is feeling this, or we're really struggling with this, or I am just lacking of energy. I don't want to do anything. Man, I can't focus on anything. It has just always been there. So when I started getting back into nutrition counseling more, that's where I wanted to focus was on moms and women's hormones and gut health because the more the more I jump into it, the more I see it that if in order to be the moms that we really want to be, our health has to be there. And when our health is there, all of a sudden the world opens up where we feel like we want to go have fun with our kids, where we feel like we want to run around and jump around or have even the patience to
Yeah.
sit down and have them read to us, because it being there for our kids is so important. But if we don't feel it, if we don't have the health to be there, it makes it such a struggle.
Yes, that's true. I have definitely felt that struggle over the years. It's funny because you talk about that we need patience, and you think of patience as just like staying calm and that it would take more energy to be angry and mad. But I do think that patience requires a lot of energy, like, and the right frame of mind to be able to back off and put things in perspective. And like, it really requires a lot out of us to just be calm. Like, it's just a funny little situation, thinking through the different dynamics. And so,
Absolutely. I was just reading a research article the other day about how our food choices and what that is nourishing is affecting our personalities. And
wow.
not just our mood. I mean, that our mood food connection's been there for a while, but like deeper into personalities and how we react and our emotional resilience, how
Wow.
that is very highly connected to what we are eating. And so, yes, you're right. Like having patience, we think that it should be so much easier than getting angry. But in some cases, it's not. If you're not fueling yourself in a way that is going to foster that, it is so much easier to be angry and to jump to conclusions and have that momster come out so much easier.
Yeah, we do a lot of wordplay here at Momivate, and momster is one of the scarier ones, right? But it's a truth. We have this inside of us that we don't even want to acknowledge. But I think it's important to be aware and tame that momster.
Yes. Yes, or recognize when it's coming out and, recognize what you can do as well to be in that right frame of mind.
And I wanted to say it could be as simple as food choices, but the word simple doesn't seem quite right there because food choices are actually really hard and complex to, even if I buy all the right foods, it doesn't mean that in the moment that I'm hungry, that I'll actually choose those. Oh, there's just so much layers there of what goes into deciding what to put in my mouth, you know?
Oh, 100%. And along with that point, I feel like nutrition ranks right up there with religion and politics of that everyone has an opinion on it. And it's hard to have a good conversation because we get very opinionated about it. And those three subjects seem to be right up there. And it's hard because nutrition is so important, but it's so confusing. And so
Yes.
to your point, you feel like you're making all of these right choices, but unless you get a little bit more education to what works for you, or to understand, is gluten really bad or is it not? Should I be eating dairy or should I not?
Yeah.
Is 30 grams of protein here, like, when is that? Should I skip breakfast and intermittent fast? Or,
Yeah.
where's it at? So it is really confusing. And that's where I feel like good, solid education in nutrition is so important for moms because we don't always get it, or we get it from social media. And
Right.
that's not always our most trusted source.
Reliable, right? There's just
Right.
so many fads and trends and experts
Yes.
and those experts don't always agree on the messages they're going to send out. And so you get this conflicting information. And I really like the concept of, you just briefly said it, something like what works for one mom might not work for another mom. And so finding out, one mom
Absolutely.
might need to be gluten-free, where another mom
Mhm.
hears about it, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing for her.
Yeah.
So the individualized aspect of those things.
Yes. That's exactly what I work on with my clients is find out where are you at and what factors do we need to take into consideration to be able to find a diet that works for you. But also understanding that that doesn't have to be a long term. A lot of times taking out gluten for a short term allows your body to heal, allows your leaky gut to heal,
Yeah.
where your tolerance of it now can come back and you can enjoy it again. Some people need to take it out forever, that they're very sensitive. Um, and that personalization, I think, is what we miss when we always seek Instagram or
Mhm.
social media for our source of information.
Right, right. Because they don't, well, they do know a lot about us, all those algorithms, right? But but it's
They
not
know
the
what we're
same
interested in for
back
sure.
and forth, right? Yeah, of them. Sometimes I think they know a lot about us, but they don't care a lot about us. So it's, yeah, needing to reach out to somebody who cares and can ask us the right questions and help us develop and progress. And I like your idea of spreading the knowledge, um, as opposed to just kind of putting a Band-Aid on it of, well, everybody should quit eating meat and then we'll all be fine.
Yeah.
So awesome. So you said something again, just briefly here as we were chatting, using the phrase leaky gut. Can
Mhm.
you tell us more what that means? Like, are we really leaking from our stomachs into the rest of our bodies, or how's this work?
Yeah, good question. So the short answer here, this is a visual description for you. Within our digestive system, our large and small intestines, if they were just an open tube here, despite the fact that your small intestine is about 22 to 26 feet long and your large intestine is 5 to 6 feet long, there would not be enough surface area for all nutrients to be absorbed in there. So your intestines have these villi that stick up. They're kind of like finger-like projections that kind of stick up. And each of these villi then, because this is going to increase surface area, sorry, that will increase surface area. But each of these villi then have your blood vessels and your lymphatic system that run right in the middle of these sections. And this is truly divine because these are your two transport systems. I mean, there's no other way to transport the nutrients that you would digest. So you eat a strawberry, you break it down, you absorb the vitamin C, and now you get to transport that vitamin C immediately to where your body needs it. Like, it is truly beautiful to have that. Each of these villi then have a one cell layer that goes up on each of these villi. And this, most other places in our body, we have at least a 2-cell layer or a multiple cell layer, a lot of protection. There's only one cell that is that barrier between what's going on in your digestive system and then what gets absorbed into your blood vessels. And again, this is really beautiful because we don't want it to be really difficult. We want to be able to absorb our nutrients and then be able to use them without having to cross all these barriers. But at the same time, this needs to be a strong protection. We don't want to absorb everything. So there's systems in place to make that work. But these cells that are in there, a couple cool things about them. They're born down here in what's called the crypt, and then they slowly move up the side of the cell, or the side of the wall here, as they continue to mature and get older and stronger. And then when they kind of reach the top, they're there for maybe a day or two, and then they die off. And they're constantly being replaced by these new cells. And again, that's really cool because that's going to keep this, should keep this a really strong barrier in there. Now, another thing with these cells, they are really close together, called tight junctions together, so that nothing should be able to go between them. We don't want to absorb pathogens or food particles or nutrients we're not supposed to in the wrong places. And so they're really tight together, and those are called tight junctions. So now with that kind of background, a leaky gut is when these cells here, they are damaged, or they're weak, or they're undernourished. And so they're not as strong as they could, or maybe they don't replenish quite as often as they should. And so you have kind of these older, weaker cells there. And that can happen for a variety of reasons, from the foods we eat, from inflammation, from getting sick, from not having good bacteria in our microbiome there. But for whatever the reason, if these cells, if they're weak, they have, it's called a leaky gut because now you have space between these tight junctions. Or you have weak cells, and so something can kind of make their way through. And so that's what it's referring to. It's not that we're leaking. It's not that everywhere, stuff is just oozing out. It's just that these cells are weak and that we're absorbing more than we should, or that we normally would, or it's causing more damage. And the biggest example of this is probably gluten. Gluten really loves to escape. It really loves to escape. So instead of being broken down into further amino acids and being absorbed where it needs to be, it takes advantage of those loose, tight junctions and then escapes. It's into your blood vessels and then transports throughout your body. But we don't normally absorb gluten. We normally break it down. So now your body recognizes we're going to attack it. So that's why we see gluten in sensitivities. It's not a true allergy. It's just a sensitivity. It shows up in joints and skin. It shows up in thyroid. It shows up in brain health, all across the body because it's being transported. Yeah, does that make sense what leaky gut is?
Yeah, it does. And the idea that it needs to, things need to be broken down enough to be able to be transported appropriately, so we don't end up with like inflammation and things like that. All right. And how then does that influence our moods, or like, is there a direct connection there?
Absolutely. Yes. So another aspect of this is your microbiome. That's another word that people are hearing a lot more about. So I just want to clarify that before I answer your next. But cells in your intestines, you have good bacteria and other microbes that live here. And we need these. They are so important for us because they're like employees, if you will. Like your body is the owner of the company, and it hires out employees to do different tasks, and our microbiome is part of that. They're hired out to do certain tasks for our body, and they do really good things. And they influence your cells here a lot. So your microbiome works with these cells and works with your whole body. So there's kind of two parts of that equation, but that's where your microbiome is. So to answer your question of that brain health connection, this one's probably the most well studied in terms of that gut brain connection. There's a huge connection there. And the couple things that really stand out to me is, one, within your digestive system, your bacteria actually help create two really important neurotransmitters. One, GABA, the other one is serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
So GABA is our anxiety
Oh,
neurotransmitter. So most anxiety medications increase GABA within your body, and
okay.
those are anti-anxieties. Serotonin is your happiness hormone.
Oh,
SSRIs or depression medications are all serotonin reuptakes. They recirculate serotonin within your body.
okay.
You produce 90% of these from within your body, within your digestive system. Only
Wow.
10% are actually created in your brain.
Okay.
So that is one big connection of how anxiety and depression are hugely connected to what is going on in your gut.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. Another way, I mean, if we go with the gluten example, and again, not everyone is sensitive to gluten, but those who are, it crosses the blood-brain barrier.
Mm.
And in some cases, it crosses it and it'll turn it into a morphine. It'll turn it into a glutamorphine. Casein in dairy is very similar. It turns into casein morphine. And again, this is only if you have a leaky gut, but they attach to those morphine receptors in your brain, and it makes them very, very addicting.
Interesting.
So I don't know if you've experienced or know someone experienced where they're like, I just need bread for every meal. I just love bread and pizza and muffins and crackers. Like that's all that they want, is because it's a true addiction because of where
Wow.
it's connecting up there. So that's part of it. And then another little snippet beyond the serotonin and GABA, but gluten also interacts with our brain in a different way where it increases anxiety and depression in our brain, even outside of those neurotransmitters too. So there's a big connection between your gut health and your brain health of how you're feeling. Another big connection there is your dopamine receptors, where different foods are very addicting. So if we eat a lot of processed foods, there's been a lot of research that shows how those processed foods actually change your brain chemistry. So you start craving those, and they're very, very addicting up there. And that in turn can change personality and mood and how you act, because you're choosing foods that don't nourish your body and you're relying on all of these artificial things.
Can I ask real quick, what does processed necessarily mean? Like just if it comes in a package that you throw away, then it probably is processed, or what? How can we tell when we're trying to make decisions about what to buy, for instance? How can
Yeah.
we think to ourselves, oh, this is too processed, or this particular whatever isn't as processed?
Yeah. Here's the simple answer. There's two rule of thumbs that I follow.
Okay.
One is a quote by Michael Pollan, and he said, if it comes from a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, leave it.
Interesting. Plant, mean the secondary kind of plant, meaning
Yes.
a
Yes.
factory.
A factory versus, so like if it was naturally grown, then it's a good thing for you. If
Okay.
it was created in a plant, it is highly processed and not a great option.
Okay.
So that's one rule of thumb. The second just need convenience a little bit. So my rule of thumb is, if this product is made in a way that is similar to how I would make it at home. If I would choose those same ingredients, and if I had the time and the ability, like I would make that following very similar ingredients or the same ingredients, then I'm totally okay with buying that.
Okay.
If it's something where there's things I can't pronounce, there's processed seed oils I wouldn't use, it has way more sugar in it than I would put in my own, I'm not going to buy that. That's not what I want to put in my body. For an example of this would be like pasta. I love fresh pasta. I don't have time to make fresh pasta. It's so time consuming.
Yeah.
But what I can buy in the store is wheat and salt and water. Like that's similar to how I would make it at home. It's just dried. It's very convenient. I can totally buy that. Versus an Oreo, that's not how I would make a homemade Oreo. Like there is nothing real about an Oreo. Like, and we all know it. And you eat that Oreo and it's really gross, but yet it changes our addiction centers where we just keep go back and going to more. That's not a food that I really want because it's not something that I would make.
Okay. That helps understand the concepts of processed foods. And yes, you're right. There is convenience that we all just need to respect the need for that convenience, especially as moms with so many different kids going so many different directions and all the chauffeuring and that we don't have enough time for everything.
We don't. And there's another kind of good rule of thumb I like to follow is like the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time you are doing the best you can. Like you are making most foods from scratch. You are really focusing on eating, a good breakfast with protein and protein throughout the day. You're choosing lots of vegetables. 80 really full. And then there's the 20% of the time where it's like, we're ordering pizza tonight. Or, yep, I totally just picked up goldfish for your snack today. That we just kind of own it. The more we can get on this side, the better. But there is a 20%, life happens. And we can't be everything to every person and we don't have all the time. But so being gracious with yourself and understanding, but whenever possible, choosing real, whole, fresh, good is what we want to do.
I'm curious, as you've been a counselor and worked with a variety of women, would you be willing to share a story or two of somebody who really did experience some changes in their relationships based on their changes in their diets?
Oh, I love that. Okay. Yes, a couple come to mind here. I worked with a lady last year, and she came to me. She's like, I'm getting married. I'm really excited. She came from a divorce situation. She'd been kind of yo-yo dieting from that. She finally met the person who was really great from her, and she just felt like she's like, I know my health isn't there, and I just want it to be there. So in the course of our talking, she went from they ate out at least 2 meals a day, most days of the week. And she just couldn't quite figure out why she felt so gross. She's like, I feel so much better on the inside, but my outside just feels so gross. And so in the process of a couple months, they started cooking more meals at home and just eating a lot cleaner and eating out less. And her personal sense of who she was finally started matching who she really wanted to be. And in turn, as they came together, like her and her partner, her fiance, she just finally told me, she's like, we are so much happier together. And we feel like we can envision this life how we really wanted it,
Wow.
where, they would talk about it, but it wasn't possible because their health was just not there. They would want to go out and go on walks and exercise and have fun together, but they truly couldn't do it because they didn't have the health to do it. So for her, it was so much part of her transformation. She had already kind of done the mental work, and then putting in some of the physical work just, put them on this trajectory to, I'm sure, like so much more happiness than they ever would have had
I love
before.
that.
So that's one example. Another one that comes to mind is I was working with someone who they they honestly were having some marital problems. And it was a good friend of mine, so this is not normally what I get into, but
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
good friend of mine, so we were talking and we talked about, um, just kind of health in general because they both just felt burnout in their
Mm,
relationship, in their personal life, and just burnout. And so he he did have a little autism. We just encouraged to get on a more particular diet to clean it up a little bit, something that would really help someone who has autism, and as well as just their family in general of just kind of clearing up their diet. And within a few months, they both came back to me and they're like, we feel better. They weren't as anxious, they weren't as angry as each other. They were better able to self-regulate a little bit, to actually have conversations. And in some way that was the answer to saving their marriage. I mean, they still had issues to work through. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong.
of course.
But when
Yeah.
you don't have the emotional or mental capacity to face those problems, that
Right.
makes it so much more difficult. Where when you feel like you are healthy and you
Right.
have the energy and the support for that to face those problems, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
And I see that in moms. The more I work with women and I see hormone imbalances going
Yeah.
on where they're more prone to that kind of burnout. And we get those back on track, all of a sudden they're like, ah, I feel like I can handle things again. Like I feel like I can tackle the problems of life and be around for my children where they just never had that before, or they lost it in the
Yeah.
process of putting other people's needs in front of their own.
Yeah. So I do think that that's the takeaway message, is that it's worth the effort to get mom uh, going as far as her nutrition. And that's like her fuel. Imagine if I were to take my van over to Kentucky Fried Chicken and say, hey, will y'all just take all that grease that you cook your chicken in and just put it in my van? My van probably would not run very well. There's a certain kind of fuel that is my van is made to run on, and it's the same thing with my body. And so I'm so glad that there's people like you, Brittany, who have all of that knowledge and can tell us, nope, the KFC's grease is not what your body is made to run on. And so we're here at the end of our time together. So I want to ask you if you could share how people can get in touch with you if they would like to ask you more questions.
Yes, I would love that. I am open always for questions if you want to know more about something. So a simple email and I can send that to you, but it's Movement Consulting. Movement is my company that I work through. So nutrimovementconsulting@gmail.com. Anyone is welcome to send me an email, or my website at nutrimovement.com has a place where you can actually sign up to work with me one-on-one. I have an online course. I have a done for you program, and then I do take clients on one-on-one to really make it personal. And I just started accepting insurance about a year ago, and most people, they don't know this, but dietitians are typically covered 100% for unlimited visits with
Wow.
most insurance plans. That
Wow.
means you could work with a health practitioner one-on-one with no out-of-pocket cost.
That's amazing. That's
It's
amazing.
amazing. It's amazing. So if you're interested in working with me, you can go to my website there at nutrimovement.com. And yeah, I'd be happy to.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I'm so grateful that we gave moms a chance to get to hear from you and know that you are just this delightful mom who cares and wants to answer questions and help them improve in a variety of ways. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Reagan.